Okay, so before we get into the next topic around recruiting, retaining, and upskilling, I just wanted to share a couple charts. I pulled this one out of Deloitte, published early this year, and it talks about retaining high-performing talent. Definitely a strategy and a priority for 2023. And you can see some of the challenges it highlighted. When they interviewed 1 in 3 executives, the executives said that retaining employees is one of their strategic challenges and priorities for 2023. And then you look at their challenges that the respondents communicated back to them. Retaining the existing talent. I think we're going to hear that a lot today. You know, you have the talent, don't let them leave, use that talent, upskill that talent. So that's one of their challenges. Finding the right talent. We've heard a lot of that. Chad shared data. Finding that right talent. Maintaining competitive wage and benefit packages. Providing career advancement opportunities and providing skills development. Again, we're going to hear that a lot. What are we doing to build the talent of our existing employees? So I pulled an article out of Achievers, and they published it early February 7th, and it's the 2023 workforce trends. What do you believe is the number one reason why employees would stay in their current job in 2023? What do you think? What was that? What else? Work environment. Labor issue. Relationships. Work flexibility. Probably not surprising, but that was the number one reason. Okay, what percentage of workers say that they will seek a new job in 2023? What percentage? 60, 45, 75. Geez, you guys are scaring me now. A lot of pessimists. It's only 33%. So I mean,
but that goes back to your baby boomer slide. Most of your older population aren't the ones looking. Right?
Correct.
That is your highest number of your population today.
Correct.
Those are the ones that feel secure in their
They're secure.
and they built their legacy, they built their foundation, they have the flexibility or whatever it is. It's the generation that's incoming. This is a smaller population of that 33.
Correct. Good point. Last question. What are the 2 top reasons workers will seek new jobs in 2023? Development. Work flexibility. You got it. They want the flexibility and they want to be able to build their skills and progress. Okay, so with that, I'm going to turn it over to the panel. And they're going to introduce themselves. And Stacy Putman, I'll turn it over to her. She's going to lead the session and moderate. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, Francis. Good morning, everyone. It's exciting to be back here and talking about such a super important topic. So my name is Stacy Putman. I work for INEOS, and I pretty much cover the whole United States for INEOS as far as leadership development. And then here locally, I focus on workforce development. I'm the president of Dream It, Do It that Patty Bell works with, and we are thrilled that you all are here. We want to learn from y'all, and we hope that we can spark some conversation through some of the comments here on this panel. So thank y'all for coming, and thank you, Vuvio, for having us. We're excited to do this, and we're thrilled to have this venue and this time for this conversation. So panelists, if you can just make sure your microphones are on. And if we could just go down the line and introduce yourself. And then some of our panelists have brought a little bit of data, a little information. So some will have a slide or two maybe. And we're just going to kind of focus on a key question for the next, say, hour or so. And then my understanding is we'll take a break for lunch and then come back and do some Q&A for the panelists that can stay and for any of you all that can stay. So sound good? Let's get started. Go ahead, introduce yourselves, please.
Good morning, my name is Dani Grant. I am the Senior HR Manager for Mitsubishi Chemical for both the SoarnoL and Specialty Resins divisions. So we have a location in LaPorte and a location in Pasadena off Bayport. I've been with the company, June will be 11 years. A transplant, I'm from Northeast Ohio, so I've been in Texas about 15 years now. Only go back once a year because I'm obliged to by the family. So we will talk a little more later about this area, but so I'm a Marine Corps veteran of 8 years, went to college in Cleveland, Ohio, graduated from there with a political science degree, and then I recently graduated from A&M with my master's in my master's of jurisprudence, so I have my master's in law right now. Love what I do, and I love the volunteer work I do outside of my paid job. Do a lot of workforce development in the area, talking to people about the opportunities in our industry and working with different companies to try and make it a better workplace for everyone. So.
Thank you, Dani. Rhodesia?
Hi, my name is Rhodesia Lindsey. I am the Director of Human Resources for Kaneka North America. We are located in Pasadena, Texas, with sites in New York, California, and Ohio. I've been with the company. This August will be 17 years for me. Basically responsible for everything from recruiting to employee relations to benefits to compensation, you name it. We've done it. And thank you so much for having me.
Hi, everybody. I'm Abbe Barr. I'm from the Chevron Pasadena Refinery. I've been with Chevron Pasadena Refinery since 2019 when we purchased it. Prior to that, I've held several jobs within Chevron, but started my journey there in 2010. Originally, I kind of switched industries altogether, but started my career at Lockheed Martin. And my background is human factors engineering, but ended up here at the refinery as the learning and development manager. So I'm excited to be on the panel and see where this goes. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name's David. I think I met everybody this morning. I work for LyondellBasell. I've been out there. This year I'll be celebrating 46 years with the company, which just means I'm old. And my background is operations. Last 9 years I've been responsible for training and development for the site. I'm also on the board of directors for NAFTA, and which really ties into this topic really well. And then part of my role at the site is I'm the liaison for the college partnership that we've got going on here.
Thanks for letting us in your house today, David. Well, as you can see, we've got some folks here with a lot of experience in a variety of areas, a lot of deep experience in recruiting, retaining, and now skill gaps, which are the three topics we're going to talk about. I think we're going to start with Dani. Do we have a slide? So Dani, why don't you kick us off with a little bit about Mitsubishi Chemical and you know what you guys have seen that works, doesn't work, and what you can share with us on these topics.
Okay, so just a quick, if you're from the industry, Mitsubishi Chemical America may sound a little new in our area. We were previously known as Noltex. We make ethyl vinyl alcohol copolymer, which is a plastic that only 3 companies in the world make. It replaced glass in food packaging, and it's in almost every plastic food container that you buy today. We realized with a name that no one knew, we had a whole different way that we recruited, but it's kind of changed now. So we're a little more recognizable. Mitsubishi Chemical itself, or the Mitsubishi name, is a little more recognizable, which honestly has helped us with recruiting in many aspects, but we're still having numerous struggles. I did have another, there we go. Okay. So with our hiring best practices, we've really had to change the way that we've done things over the years. The company, SoarnoL, is only about 27 years old. The specialty resins site is around 30 years old. We've had to look more into the ways that we can get face-to-face earlier on with our candidates. A lot of that, again, is with Sanjak and Lee partnering with those colleges, coming in, making the relationships so that when they're doing the live run of the unit outside, we get a phone call and I bring my ops team out here and we watch the students physically do the work that they would be doing on a smaller scale, but it's an on-the-job watching interview from the side of my ops team. And it has been pretty crucial for them to see how someone is going to interact with the operators outside from the board and vice versa from outside to the board, what they know about the process, what they've learned in the courses. Are they retaining this information? Are they just regurgitating information, or do they understand why the process is happening and how it's happening? So that's new, and actually last May with their graduating class, we ended up hiring 2 graduates, and they've been with us since then, and they have been phenomenal employees. We had a practice of always going with someone with a lot of experience. That had not worked for us, and I'll tell you, it was a struggle. So in the beginning of January, we hired 7 new hires, January 2022, 7 new hires that all had experience. By June, we had 2 of them left. So it has to do with, it's not just the interview process, but it's actually looking at what we do as a company. We have a very difficult process. I won't go into it, but it's a lot. It's a 2-year training process, unique to anything you will see in industry. The operators that came from pipe in, pipe out, or easy process places realized when they got there it was more work than what they wanted. So that was when we came up with the idea, let's go with students or recent graduates of any age that don't have that mindset of, I'm going to train and be on the board in 3 months, because there's no way that is going to happen at our facility. And so far it's been successful, but we had to make that change. We do have a corporate recruiting team now, which has broadened our prospects. So as Noltex, we didn't have that. We were looking just locally, but now that we have a corporate recruiting team for Mitsubishi Chemical, we're getting applications and candidates from all over the United States. So we have a much wider talent pool, which has really been beneficial for us also. Timely interviews. So I don't know about anyone in here, but I'm sure everyone knows someone that has gone to 5 or 6 interviews and they still don't have a decision. We do panel interviews now. I have 7 operators and the ops manager in an interview, and we do it in maybe 1.5 hours. And by the time of that completion, we know whether we're hiring that person or not. So why take all that time of having someone come back multiple times to see the same people I can put them in front of in one interview?
Dani, what caused that change? Because we made a similar-ish type change, and I'm just wondering for Mitsubishi, what triggered that?
We were losing candidates. We were losing candidates to other companies that already implemented those processes and would hire them after the first, maybe second interview. We would call them back and say, hey, we'd love to have you come back in and do a tour. I'm sorry, last week I took a position with so-and-so. So we realized we were losing talent to other people, and we had to change that process.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
Same.
It's disheartening, for the candidate and the employer when you take time to interview, but you can't make that decision quick enough, and you lose potential good talent. Retention best practices, because a lot of times we have to look at what can we do to keep our employees. We invested a lot of time and money and training and other things with these people, and they've invested a lot in us. We want to keep them. We don't want to have high turnover rates. We want to have the 10-year employees with 15, 20 years experience that are teaching the new ones come in. So a lot of what we've done, now this is of course outside of operations because we're a DuPont schedule for operations, but everyone else in the company, including maintenance, has a 980 schedule. This is every other Friday off. You work 9-hour days, Monday through Thursday, and 8 hours on your Friday to work. Monday through Thursday. The next week, we work 9 hours and you're off Friday. So we're giving them an additional 26 days a year off on top of a very generous vacation and floating holiday policy. So this is where the flexibility has come in. Now, this has been practiced since I've been there 11 years, and it was before that. So I can't tell you what made them change that. But my thinking is because we were a small facility having to compete with Chevron, INEOS, Lyondell, LyondellBasell, all the big names, we had to give the employees that extra incentive to have them come work for us instead of one of the big name companies. Competitive benefits used to be a very big contention with our operators about the benefit packages until I had them start asking their friends that were working at the other plants, and they would come back and realize that very competitive. For a company at the time of 120 employees, we had packages that would compete with any large name national company, and we had to do that.
Have y'all made any changes? I'm on a team with Greater Houston Partnership called Upskill, and we had someone come in and talk with us early this year, and they talked about how retention for people of color, just anybody that fits in that BIPOC type acronym, that they were losing them because of, we just started 1-week vacation, 2-week vacation, and so banks and others were saying, they were, on a panel, and they were saying we're increasing those numbers of weeks off because time off, another aspect of flexibility, was something that had to be addressed, and then they could retain people better with that, especially their target hiring categories. Have y'all seen something similar?
Well, we already had a very generous vacation policy, which was another reason we implemented it, was the competition to draw employees in. So at our company, at our location, your start of exempt work or college graduation date is the start of your vacation. So between my military service and what I had done outside of that, when I started 11 years ago, I started with a 20-year level of vacation. it's a huge thing for an employee to go from one company to another and someone say, oh, we're gonna start you off with 2 weeks. What do you mean? I had 4 at my last company. Yeah, but we don't do that here. Well, we do. And it is a huge recruiting tool. Between the 980 schedule and that vacation, it has been a great asset for us. And if you ask some of our employees, those are 2 of the top reasons why they came to our company. And they've stayed. So we are new, and we're looking at actually changing our vacation a little too, because we only have a 20-year level. Well, soon we're gonna have employees at 30. We wanna reward and retain those employees, give them the benefits they deserve for being dedicated employees for 30 years with one company. They deserve that. You deserve, the 980, you deserve every other Friday off and your vacation. And I get asked a lot, so is it just a policy you talk about, or is it in practice? I've been there for 11 years, I've maybe worked 5 Fridays that I was supposed to be off, because we expect everyone to be professional enough to know if you have a project or work that has to be done, you're gonna have to come in on your Friday off. But it is in practice. It is not just what we say, it's in practice.
That sounds like a real strong culture that y'all developed there.
It is, it is. And
And through the change from Noltex to Mitsubishi, no challenge?
not yet.
Early days?
It's slowly becoming a corporation, like we're with a big corporation, and it's slow. So HR is now shared services, accounting is shared services, HSE, and a few of the other procurement, those kinds of departments will be shared services, but it's slow going. We were always partially owned by Mitsubishi, but they didn't have a big hand in policies, procedures, practices. They were about 49%. It is a good change in a lot of eyes, but change is always scary for everybody. So the big thing that we've done is, as soon as we get information, we have to communicate that information. So the more you communicate with the employees, and as soon as you do it, there's less likely to have surprises and be upset. You're not always gonna make everyone happy with change, and there's gonna be some times where you have to maybe sit down and talk with someone a little more one-on-one. But if we surprise them, then we lose their trust. So as soon as we get information, we need to give it to them, and it's direct and immediate. And that is a really good practice that our site general manager at SoarnoL has. As soon as he has information, he is communicating it out in different venues, different ways.
Yeah, surprises, really good, really good. I see your next bullet here gets to something that was mentioned earlier about how do you retain people, why do people change jobs, promotion, a pathway. So we're in a school setting, so we can talk about pathways, right? But am I going to be doing just this job for the next 30 years? Is that what you expect? Or what if I want to do something different? Are you going to develop me? Are you going to offer me opportunities? Can you talk about that?
Sure. So in 2013, we had sort of a mass exodus of salary employees, because it was a kind of culture where you had to wait until either your supervisor or manager retired or unfortunately passed away in order for you to get a promotion. So we brought in a company that helped us work out a plan that gave our salary employees a pathway. So we have what we call tracks: admin track, technical track, managerial track. And it tells them what they have to do to be qualified or to be considered for a promotion. So it's time in their position, the different qualifications they have to have, whether they're an engineer or an accountant. And it lays out a career path for them. So they can move in those tracks without having to wait for a supervisor or manager to retire or pass away. And they can still get those bumps. They can get the promotion. They can get the pay increases that come along with that, the responsibilities. And it gave them a career path that they could look at. Because if you don't do that, your employees will leave and find someone else that will. Because someone else has a procedure or a policy or a plan in place for them. From day one, they're looking at them and saying, all right, I know exactly where that person is going to go in our company. Had a new engineer, literally 6 months, production engineer, email me yesterday and say, hey, I see you're here on Friday. I want to sit down and talk about my career path and what it's going to look like for me and how I can get promotions. And I said, perfect. Here's the policy. Read over this. This will get you in preparation for our conversation on Friday. And I will sit down with this person and we will talk about the opportunities, the tuition reimbursement. So if the company sees that you going to school and furthering your education or getting that degree is going to be a benefit for yourself and the company, we pay. I'm not going to go over what we pay, but we pay a lot. And then professional skill training. So we offer that too. We make our employees, and some of them, I say make, some of them we have to make. We have to force them to develop their careers. What they do with that, we force them to develop a career plan. What they do with that is their own business, but we sit down at our PDR process, our review process, and we develop a plan with them. What do they want to do? Where do they want to go? now that we're part of a larger corporation, I say lost because they were wonderful employees. We've already lost 2 employees that have left and moved into corporate roles. So that's what we hope for all of them, and that we develop the people that come in so that at some point they have a career opportunity with a bigger organization and more responsibility.
Great, thanks. And you're seeing retention progress as a result of this? Offering these programs?
I would say yes on the salary side. So the operations side, we still give them the same information, and we give them the same opportunities, but the retirements are coming left and right. And there's just that, and there are other things that we can't give them that they need. So I know there's a lot of operations people in here that have worked 30, 40 years in a day-night shift on a DuPont or something similar. After a while, physically, it just wears on the body, and we've lost our last 2 operators. One of them had a serious health condition, and he had to leave, and he went to a day job. And then the second one just said, listen, I've had conversations with my wife. I've been working shift work for 30 years. She wants me home at night and on the weekends. So we don't have as many opportunities for operators to go from DuPont to Day. We do have 2 of them in those roles right now, but until they're ready to go or we grow as a company, we don't have as many opportunities for them to move. So with operations, we try and look at the ones that we can put into leadership positions. So I don't know about anybody out here, but I don't necessarily want to work at a plant where I hire a shift supervisor that doesn't know what the heck we make or how it's made. So our last 2 operations managers started off as operators. All 4 of our shift supervisors started off as operators, all of our leads. So those positions, we're not going to bring from the outside. It's the promote from within and watch them grow with the company.
Right. Yeah, that's real similar to a lot of our companies. No, but there's only a few of those positions. You're right.
Right.
Yeah. So there's got to be other ways to entice folks to stay with it. Well, thank you, Dani. I'm sure we'll circle back to you all. Okay. So that's a great kickoff for us. I'm going to see if I can get this to work and see. Rhodesia, did you bring a slide? Okay. Let's see if I might not. I'm just going to point it around. Great. All right. So, Rhodesia, could you introduce yourself again, just to remind us, because you've been hearing some great things, and just talk to us about kind of some of those same topics about recruiting and retention, and what do y'all do to develop folks, and what are you seeing on that skill gap? Because we're hearing a lot of doom and gloom from Chad, which I think is just reality. I don't think he's the good cop or the bad cop. He's just the reality cop for us, unfortunately. So maybe talk a little bit about that too.
Sure. Again, I'm Rhodesia Lindsey. I'm the Director of Human Resources for Kaneka North America. Been with Kaneka. It'll be 17 years this year in August for me. Native of Louisiana, but I have been in Texas for over 20 years, so I do call this home. Degree in counseling, bachelor's degree and master's degree, and also SHRM certified. Kaneka, we are going on our 35th year. Maker of everything from polymers to PVC to also dietary supplements. You've heard of CoQ10 and ubiquinol. We are the U.S. manufacturer for that in the U.S. Also, we have divisions in California, which for aerospace and also medical device, and we have locations in New York that is also medical device as well. We are the maker of polyimide film that is used in cell phones and airplanes. So we have a nice portfolio there, and we're steadily trying to grow. So that's just a little bit about some of our products and our locations. And as far as what I've seen, as far as what we're doing to retain our workforce, basically we want to make sure that our pay and our benefits are competitive so that we can compete within the industry with it where we are, basically. We're not as big as the Exxons and the Shells, but we try to stay steady so we can bring in top talent into our organization as well. We are offering a 980 and telecommuting policy as well, because everyone wants remote work. I think we all were affected by COVID. We found that people did not want to come back to the office, and everybody wanted to work from home 100% of the time, which for certain positions that just couldn't happen. So basically we've offered the 980 where you're off every other Friday, as Dani stated. We have that as well. And then with the remote work policy, it's a 50-50, pretty hybrid. On-site 50%, working from home 50% of the time. In addition to, for some positions that we try to retain, we will offer a retention or sign-on bonus to keep those people, because we don't want our talent to walk out the door. In addition to that, making sure that we recognize our employees. We want to make sure that our people feel appreciated, because without them, Kaneka wouldn't exist. We couldn't run our business without people. So we want to make sure that we are keeping our people engaged, that, that management is engaged, that we're having effective communication. In addition to that, from a career development standpoint, I want to be able to build a bench. I have a high percentage of workforce that's eligible to retire right now. And I'm trying to do everything I can not to let that talent walk out the door, but at the same time, build a bench, share that knowledge so we can get people ready from a succession standpoint, and also just to decide to have those conversations as to what the career track is going to look like. Is it a managerial track? Is it a technical ladder track? Where do you want to be? What do you want to do when you grow up? So basically, we're having those conversations and making sure that we educate our managers to engage our employees as well, to find out what they want to do. Sometimes I found that with the remote work that, communication wasn't as effective. So we had to do some training there to fill that void, to make sure that people didn't feel like they were on an island by themselves, and that managers will still engage with their employees. Now, if you had a project or some type of business meeting, it didn't matter whether it was your Friday off, and it didn't matter whether you were working from home. You were expected to come on site. So we're just trying to make sure that we keep everything running and keep everything smooth. We did experience some turnover last year, and so we're trying to come back from that. And things have gotten better. I do see that, we're moving in the right direction. But I'm pretty sure not just Kaneka, but with everyone else, you guys probably experienced a little bit. We saw that the job market was hot, and salaries literally looked like it was 30% over market. So people had options, for salary. Did I lose a few candidates in the recruitment process? Yes, I did, because people were interviewing with multiple companies, coming back with multiple offers. So of course, without going into too much detail, making sure that the compensation is where it needs to be able to not be in that position again.
Rhodesia, can I ask a question? And
Sure.
it's one of those I'm asking for a friend questions, if you know what I mean. A friend of mine who works in the petrochemical industry does not work for a company that has telecommuting or flex hours. And one of the reasons that friend is told that we don't have that is because we have so much of our employee base are craft. Operator technicians, other maintenance technicians, and whatnot, and especially those operator technicians who work that DuPont schedule, have voiced their concerns over this. These individuals who work basically 11 days a month
Right.
Have expressed concerns. I'm just wondering for you, where you have a very flexible work schedule, it sounds like beyond the 980s. Something we heard in the data that people are looking for is workplace flexibility. Have there been any issues with implementing that post-COVID?
Now, when we actually implemented that policy, Stacy, there were some positions that are not eligible, such as operations and maintenance and lab, because you can't do those jobs from home. So we made it very clear that what positions actually met the criteria to participate in that program. So we didn't get a lot of pushback in the beginning. With COVID, I think there was some concern. Well, where is everyone else? We're here. Where is everyone else? So of course we addressed that to make sure that the percentages were where they needed to be, and we had the right amount of staff on site when they needed to be on site.
Great, thank you. I see you've got some points here on recruiting.
Yes, as far as recruitment best practices, when I started with Kaneka 16 years ago, basically we used a lot of headhunters, a lot of staffing firms. I have some new HR business partners working with me, and from their previous experience, they've done a lot of recruiting through LinkedIn and Indeed and sourcing, and so we've changed to do a lot of social media recruiting. And it has proved us well. It's working, especially the LinkedIn portion. I was able to get 4 key positions filled with candidates that I found on LinkedIn. So I'm definitely going to keep that going. And then, of course, we've been successful with our employee referral program as well. We've had some employees to refer. We've also received some great candidates through our applicant tracking system as well. From all over, which basically, opens up, your talent pool when you're getting resumes from all over the world, which is great. And then, of course, some through immigration and sponsorship, which I'm pretty sure we've all had to do from time to time. And then, of course, before going outside, I always want to make sure that I'm looking within the house first to identify those candidates that are ready to be promoted. And again, building the bench, letting someone know, having those conversations, what do you want to do? I see great potential. We definitely want to make sure that with the workforce that we have, that we are basically developing our people. But not only that, our leadership as well, to be able to engage those employees to, get the best return on investment and, help them throughout their career to, basically become what they want to become and have the support behind them.
Great, thank you. May I ask how many employees y'all have in this area, roughly?
And I would say probably 360 just
Okay.
within Pasadena.
Just under 500, okay, yeah.
And
great.
then the other sites, we're probably right around 540
Okay.
between
great.
California, New York, Ohio, including Pasadena.
And Dani, you said what, 120? Is that right? I'm sorry, catch you
A
without a
little
mic.
bit over 300 here in Pasadena.
Okay,
So our SoarnoL site has 116 employees with 2 inpats from Japan, and then the specialty resin site has 70 employees, and there are 2 inpats also. But MCA wide, we're in the U.S. about 2,000 employees and about 5,000 employees worldwide with Mitsubishi Chemical Group.
I wanted to ask that question just because we're about to hit Chevron and LyondellBasell, right? So companies of all size are looking at all these different types of ways to be competitive, to retain people, to recruit people, and size is going to matter. It's going to make a difference, especially on the compensation. What's your market and what you can hit. But I think that's important to note. It's small sites, large sites, diverse sites. We're all having to be serious about this, and I think that's a message for our companies for sure. So thank you, Rhodesia. Thank you. Abbe, welcome from Chevron. You want to tell us a little bit? Just remind us, a little bit about yourself, and then let's talk about some recruiting and retention and skill gaps.
All right, so again, I'm Abbe Barr. I'm the Learning and Development Manager at the Pasadena Refinery for Chevron. A little bit of again, about my background. I graduated from Embry-Riddle in Human Factors back in December 2003. From there, went on to Lockheed Martin, where I ended up getting a master's degree in Industrial and Human Factors Engineering in 2008. Worked there until 2010, until I left that industry and came over to Chevron, where, again, I practiced human factors for many years before the opportunity posed itself when we bought the Chevron Pasadena Refinery, so that was in 2019. So a little bit about recruitment, and I'm going to really focus more so on Chevron Pasadena Refinery, but one thing that we get to benefit just from the refinery is we do have a very large corporation. So again, we do go through our corporate team to help us pull in candidates. So when we bought the refinery and we had our first new hire class, we were a little nervous because we were new in the area and had people knew of the refinery in the past. So we didn't know if we were going to have a lot of candidates or not, and we had more than enough. So our process is long. They go and they take a test specifically for operations, and if they pass the test, then they can be included in part of the hiring process. And from that point on, it actually goes through just a lottery. So it's random as far as who we pull in for candidates and actually go through and hire. So they come in, we'll sit on a panel similar to the others, and then we'll select the candidates from there. So that's been really good on that side. As far as salaried employees, so far at the refinery, we haven't had many outside salaried employees come in, and we really have leveraged not other refineries, but just within Chevron itself, once we bought the refinery, pulled in a lot of really great talent from other business units and brought them in to help support the transition over from the previous refinery over to ours. Other things, I guess, just as far as recruitment too, being competitive with the salaries definitely is a big thing. Flexibility, again, very similar to the others up here. Everybody wants a very flexible job. So as far as our operations maintenance go, the hours aren't really flexible. We're also on the DuPont schedule. But when it comes to salaried employees, we do have flex schedule and very limited, I guess, on positions too. Certain ones in the refinery can participate in that 3 days at work, 2 days from home for us. But others, we expect them to be there. But flexible in the sense, if you have an appointment, if you have something that you need to do for kids, no one's going to even, bat an eye. It's absolutely go support your family and do what you need to do. So that's been really positive. I guess as far as keeping talent goes, we're doing, again, similar things. So benefit and pay, that's huge, but also the refinery implemented an employee of the month. And we actually, every month we have 2 employees of the month, which anybody can nominate. So somebody that does really good work for you, you put them in and they get a reward for doing it. They get announced by our general manager, and it's been really exciting for people. So that's proven to be, you know, kind of a badge of honor if you've gotten the employee of the month.
Abby, can I speak into that a little bit? We recently completed a area-wide employee survey in my business unit for our employees, and recognition ranked really high. And I tie that to some things I've read about folks want to work with a purpose. And when an individual, an employee, it feels like they are working each day and their career is heading a certain direction and there's purpose in that, it's really meaningful, and that can increase retention as well. And that recognition piece is really, really key. And so we've started something called our CEO Honor Roll, and part of it was so that supervisors would talk to their employees. Right, you got to kind of talk to them and know their names and remember their names so that you can nominate them. So it was really a push for those supervisors to dig in on that. And then we're starting some other programs, more formal programs, national recognition programs, things like that. So can you talk a little bit more? I'm really interested in. So what are the criteria in general, maybe for recognition? You know, is add a girl, add a boy, add a person? They finish something on time, they went above and beyond. Like what's that about?
So really, it's open to whoever wants to nominate. Anybody can nominate. It's not really criteria, but say 5 people get nominated during that month, right? There is kind of a down selection. They're looking at, did somebody go over above and beyond? Did they maybe save the company money doing something that particular month? Or, did they do something that no one expected them to do, really go out of their way to support another group or help somebody out? But any kind of recognition is open and welcome, though. And we do have a policy. We try not to nominate people more than once. That's part of the policy, but it's been really great. And recognition in general is huge. We also have an employee rewards and recognition system. So everybody kind of gets a bucket of money as an employee in your bucket, I guess. And throughout the year, you're encouraged to use that. So if somebody goes out of their way, again, a different function, you need their help, and it wasn't part of the business plan, but they stopped and helped you anyway, you could reward them by giving them a little bit of that money out of your bucket in different various amounts. So that's been really good too. Obviously, people like that monetary rewards, but people also like general recognition. So we also have different policies that just recognizing people by sending an email to their supervisor and just saying, hey, this person really went out of their way. So that's big. It keeps continuing to pop up on our employee surveys as well. So we're always trying to think of new ways how we can continue recognizing people and supervisors as well. Just what are they doing within their own teams to have that recognition? It's been really good. And doing things like team lunches as well. So taking out your team if you finish a great project and close it up, that's been another way that we've recognized people. Yeah,
how about everybody on the panel? Do y'all do something like that? Do y'all have a recognition?
Yes, we're actually doing employee recognition right now. We had Sudis to come out.
What day is that?
It's
fried
today and
catfish.
tomorrow, and it was last Thursday and Friday for the entire plant.
Okay, tomorrow also, Friday. Kaneka?
Okay. So yeah, we do small things, and then we have larger scale. So a couple months ago, we hit some production records. So in order to just show a little thank you, one day we had the mobile catfish come out and serve the entire site, catfish lunch, fried catfish lunch. And then we did, on the long week for ops, we did all 4, and we did Dickey's barbecue, like 3 huge meals for everyone to have. So it's just little things like that. Then we also have an award recognition program also. But we don't have employee of the month yet, so
That's kind of neat.
we get ideas too from other people. So I'm not afraid to steal ideas. So
Right. David, what about LyondellBasell? Y'all have a recognition program?
Yeah, we do similar. We do milestone recognitions. We do catfish on wheels, dinners, and things like that. And then we give gifts for like million man hours and things like that. But then we also have a program called Bravo where employees can recognize employees to a certain dollar amount. And then leadership can recognize employees to a higher dollar amount.
Cool, thanks. Some neat ideas, right? Some similarities, but some uniqueness. Abby, anything else you want to share at this time?
Yeah, I do just want to say, as far as retention to employee development, I think that that's another really big thing to go ahead and talk about just quickly. But employee development's so important. And so we came into the refinery and really trying to make sure that we're providing the right kind of training and skills, competencies where people can go ahead and do their jobs. But then also, again, providing those job opportunities. So right now we're still early in our journey, but again, promoting up operators to fit in roles like a shift team lead so that they can become salary and work those day shifts. But also for operators, again, real high performers, we'll bring them in, we'll give them special assignments. So it might be something that a project they're working on for a couple months, or it might even be a year, but giving them that opportunity to work too, which is really good for their work-life balance and families. So different things like that. And then once you get up into the salary ranks, we have a process, it's our personal development process, but jobs get posted. And so every 18 months to 3 years, people are encouraged. If they want to apply to a different job within Chevron, they can. Unfortunately, we lose a lot of great talent in certain business units when people go and work in other areas, but it also really helps develop people. And even most recently, we're really developing people to the point where there's set competencies, but we have people from finance jumping into jobs within operations. So it's been huge as far as really retaining overall in the company, because our thing is we don't want you to go look elsewhere. So if you're at a point in your life, just like I was, right, with human factors engineering, and I said, hey, I really like this, but I kind of want to do something else. And so instead of having to leave the company and find something, I was just able to move to another role in Chevron, which has been really great for the company.
Wow, that's a great example. Thank you. And that's a big jump, finance to operations, and but that can broaden our vision of what can be. So that's super. Thank you. Thank you. David Gosnay with LyondellBasell. I want you just remind us a little bit. Oh, I guess we've all heard the jokes this morning. I missed that. So were they good, Dani? He told me to ask you. They were good dad jokes. He said there was some new bad. All right. He said there were some new ones. So, David, how about you help us out with some wisdom from your end of the stage here on these topics?
Yeah, so I'm probably not going to say anything very original down here on the end, but so background-wise, I basically I failed my way through high school and didn't go to college. And in 1978, I hired in at a place called Atlantic Richfield, which eventually turned into LyondellBasell. Started out as an operations trainee and kind of worked my way through into some leadership positions and a number of positions, and then landed in the training and development role that I'm in now. So that's kind of my background. So as far as recruiting, so we do a lot of the same things that everybody here on the panel does. Kind of, I guess, maybe unique for us is we have 4 of our major sites that basically are in like a 6-mile radius of this campus. And so we created a collaborative recruiting, hiring, and training initiative between those 4 sites. So we created a recruiting team, so we got representation from each one of our sites. And we're here on campus, and so it's really campus presence. And I know that that's been mentioned on this panel already. So we're here for career fairs, we do mock interviews, and we do resume workshops. We observe the projects that students are doing. We attend the PTech, student PTech club meetings and things like that. Interact a lot with the leadership and staff here at the college. We do instructor development. So just a lot of touch points, and so we can start evaluating the students and start building relationship with students. So when we get around to our hiring efforts, we've got some inside information on who we want and who we don't want. So that's probably similar to what everybody else is doing. So if you're sharing best practices, probably maybe this could possibly be differential and worth sharing, is we have 3 different hiring processes. One of them is we hire process tech. One of them is we hire industry experience, and then we have an exclusive hiring for ex-military. And we've done this for about the last 10 years, and it's basically we want to hire military as they're transitioning from the military into public life and into the industry sector. And so, and basically the criteria is you have to be honorably discharged in the last 5 years, and then we give you credit for everything you learned in the military. So we did that for a while, and then we realized that we're starting to get a lot of military experience at our site. So we have a 8-week training program that they go through. It's pretty structured. So we contacted the VA and said, hey, we'd like to talk to you about our training program. We'd like to get it certified. And so they came to our site. We spent about a year working with the VA. They came out every week for a year. We went page by page, job by job through our training program content, and they basically certified us to be a training program that allowed veterans to get their VA benefits paid directly to them as long as they were in our training process. And they certified it for X amount of hours, which is about 2 years worth. So as long as you're in our training program for the first 2 years that you're there, you can get your VA benefits at the same time, which is about $1,800 a month in addition to your salary, because that's a benefit to the employee. It's separate from what they get paid for LyondellBasell. So I think that's a recruiting competitive advantage for us in the recruiting market, and it's also a retention tool. So then, as far as retention, same thing, a lot of the same things. We actually did a out-of-cycle raise for our salary people, so as engineers, first-line supervisors, and specialists. The company did a market reference and recognized that we were probably not paying competitively, so they just made an adjustment and give everybody a raise out of cycle, which was a huge positive. And then we do the same remote work thing. We do 3 days. Our employees, salaried employees, can work from home 3 days a week, and it's their choice. You know, they can work any 3 days that they want. Everybody that reports to me they work from home, and they do work the 3 days from home. And what I've realized is, you know, when you're working at work and you got a 9 to 5 or whatever it is, at 5 o'clock you go home and the work stops for the most part. But as my group started working from home, I noticed that at 11:30 at night they're still working. They're still sending out emails, and on the weekends they're still answering calls from the plant. It's like they don't know when to stop working. So I'm actually getting more work from people that are working remotely, kind of by default. The other thing is, and I think that Abbe might have touched on it, is it's a huge benefit. It's huge retention for the salaried workers, but then the hourly workers, the people that are able to work remote, they want to work remote more, and the people that can't work remote, they want them back to work. And so it creates some tension there that you got to work through.
Yeah, thanks for that, David. I just have a quick question, and then we're going to focus on skill gaps and what y'all might be seeing. But so if David worked for your company, Dani, how many years? 46? How much vacation would David get?
We don't even have a 30 level yet, a 30-year level.
Wow,
So, I mean,
wow. There's an example from industry right there. So you get half a year off, David. Let's just go with that. Yeah. So skills gap. So as Chad Burke mentioned, he's in the midst of working with Dani on a survey that I'm not sure we've answered yet. We'll get that back to you. And some of the early indications are it's process tech, it's millwright, and it's I&E. I know on our response it's going to include IT, especially cyber. It's going to include finance. We had a heck of a time last year hiring someone into benefits. We were looking for a master's in math. And so some of us talked to them about, you know, you're reading the numbers for someone's 401k. Do they need a master's, right? And so, yeah, we dropped that to a bachelor. So sometimes our retention problems are self-made for sure, right? Look at those job descriptions, those kind of things. So we're seeing those gaps that Chad talked about, but we're seeing it a little broadly. The finance industry did a 50% turnover at the late stages of the lockdowns and COVID and things like that. So big turnover in finance, not in my company, in the industry, in the finance industry. So we've struggled hiring accounts receivables folks, stuff like that. So we're working more with the colleges on their business side, on their IT side, continuing to work on process tech side, like David talked about. So what are y'all seeing on skills gaps? Anything, David, you want to kick us off on that?
I mean, I think everybody's suffering from the same thing, right? We got a lot of people that are retiring, a lot of experience that's going down the road, and you know, what do you do about that? So I think one of the first questions for me is how do you retain some of that? And so, you know, we do something called knowledge harvest, and basically we identify people that are going to be leaving, long tenured people that are going to be leaving, and then a year or so ahead of that, we start a documented process to try to collect some of their knowledge. We've kind of advanced that into kind of like video capture. We'll sit down and we'll interview them, and we'll do some videos, and we cut them up into snippets and start using those for training content down the road. So it's knowledge harvest if you can for people that are leaving. But then just even our incumbent workforce. So we've done some upskilling there. We've got simulators at our plant, so we're bringing them back for some advanced board training, different things like that. Just a lot. We bring incumbent workers here. We use the labs here with the glass lab, the glycol unit, the simulation lab, different labs here. So we bring a lot of our experienced operators back here to do some of that. And then we've got I got listed there. It's an online academy that the company paid to give access to all the employees, and it's personal development where you can go in there and you can do anything from really technical development to music lessons to learn how to be a painter or public speaking or whatever. And there's a certification process. It's you can go through and you get certified on these different topics and just for personal development.
Great, thank you for that. Anybody else want to comment here on the panel on skill gaps, what you're seeing?
As far as skills gaps, I do agree. I think I saw it on an earlier slide with the critical thinking and the troubleshooting for some, that they're struggling with that. So we're definitely working with our learning and education department to, kind of like do some skills assessments to put some things in place. And we do partner with the American Management Association too for most of our leadership and any other step progressions or if someone is going into those supervisory positions. So that's really important right now, but that's what we're seeing.
Great for sharing that resource too. Abby or Dani?
I'd like to just add something too. I think that we had talked about this previously, but maybe things where we could get better at where we don't have a best practice, I guess. So one of the things is that when we bought the refinery, we don't have any console simulators. So we definitely have a gap in that, to the point where we've actually had operators console that wanted to demote themselves from that particular position. So we're really actively looking into how to develop that, how to bring that up quickly, but still not using a console simulator because of the cost and the other resources needed for that. And I think another issue that we have personally is we have these operators who are working so hard. We're already bringing them in on a lot of their off time, just trying to get the regulatory training taken. So we do offer them training, but try to balance that because they don't want to come in necessarily on more of their off time just to do training. So we are looking at some other opportunities. We do have some online programs as well that they let them do, but I think that that's one of the challenges that we face.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Dani.
So we, as a company for the SoarnoL division, we realized we had that gap, and we just implemented the simulation training system for our board operators. It's a very intense process. Again, it's 4 days from raw chemical to final product, and a very long training program just to become an operator. And then on top of that, you're looking at a lengthy period of time to be a board operator. So we were trying to look at what we could do to speed that process up. And that was one of the things the company thought, is that it's going to be a really good return on investment in our operations department and give more people opportunity to work the board instead of very limited numbers of board operators. There's skill gap in everything we do. So it's a big issue with every company trying to figure out, we were talking earlier at the table, those little things that your 20 or even 15-year operator or engineer or mechanic or I&E tech, those little things they weren't taught but they learned. How do we capture that to give to the new employees that are coming in? So losing that knowledge really takes a long time to recover, and you may not ever get some of that information or skill back. So it's a constant challenge. It's not just once in a while. It's a constant
It's a risk.
challenge.
I think we all see it as a risk
Yeah.
to organizations. Yeah, I remember when I was working at a plant, INEOS plant in California for 5 years. And when I first got there, Art, one of our operators, took me for a tour, and he says, "So we use 4 of our 5 senses to run this plant. Do you know which one we don't use?" I said, "I sure as hell hope it's taste." And he said, "That's right. But the way things smell, the way things sound, what I see, those all go into a lot of work that we do in operations, in maintenance, but also in managing people, right? What am I hearing? What am I seeing? Those kind of things as well. One of the topics that I read comes across my feed and I read about, and I just recently finished teaching some classes on, are what's called essential skills or soft skills. We've heard a lot about that over the last year, and Dave and I were having a conversation before we started about that. And so, what about that? And that's not just for your crusty engineers. I mean, we're seeing that with some of our Gen Z hires and all across all the different departments and fields. And what about the soft skills or essential skills? What are y'all seeing there? Have y'all looked at that one?
So I can speak for what Chevron's doing. This was a huge gap for us in the skills space. And so just recently within operations, we've implemented our frontline leadership development program, which is a combination of soft skills, but we also do things with HR and a lot of scenario-based training to really provide those frontline workers with the tools that they need to really be successful leaders. We're expanding that. We're looking into doing all of our refinery frontline leaders, no matter what function they're in, whether it's operations or HSE or procurement for everybody, just that they all get that same type of training. And it really is a journey, knowing that you can't just expect, give people a training in a week and then kind of leave it there, but that you have to continue that development for them. So the journey that we're looking at is about an 18-month program that takes them and does little training activities throughout and allows them to do different scenarios, work with a mentor along the way. And that's been another thing that we've seen to be really successful, but definitely an issue when it comes to our company surveys where leaders need development. So you can have really great, smart people and put them into a leadership position, but that does not necessarily make them a good leader. So definitely skill gaps, and we're continuing, like I said, starting our journey and learning from it and just putting in that continuous improvement into that program.
Great, thank you.
So just to piggyback a little, because we saw the same thing, we had especially our shift supervisors saying, you guys put us in these positions of supervision and gave us no tools. So a few years ago, we partnered with Sanjak and did an entire year-long course of DDI training and then books that we would read, and we'd sit down as a group and we would each have a chapter of the book. And this was for every potential supervisor, every supervisor, manager, or director within our location at the SoarnoL division. But it's also not just that. We improved our interview process, internal interview process, because everyone that is an amazing INE tech may not be an amazing INE supervisor or lead. So going through a round of interviews again and a real in-depth look at that person, and not just their knowledge, their job or career knowledge, but how they are as a person. So is this someone we could see in a supervisory position? And it has helped, but we still need to give them the tools. After we've identified those people, we still need to do the tools to continue to give them the knowledge they need to be successful.
Yeah, those are good points, good points.
We've also identified, we went through a cultural transformation in 2018.
Tell us more, what cultural, you'll get sold, bought, what happened?
No, basically, we worked with a consultant because there were some things that were identified, some cultural attributes that we wanted to change. So we worked with the company, we identified what these cultural attributes were going to be, and basically there was a committee or a panel that we did surveys, we did focus groups, and through these surveys and focus groups, we determined what those items were. Some of them started with leadership, effective communication, because everybody that's in a leadership role does not mean that you communicate effectively, right? You may be good at the job portion, but not everybody's good at communicating. And so we've been focusing on that. We've even added soft skills to most of our job descriptions as well. And we're working with our learning and education department for soft skills training, because there has, we've received feedback that that certain conversations just either are not taking place properly or, not at the level of detail that it should. So we're trying to make sure that our workforce is equipped with those soft skills to be able to communicate effectively.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. And how's that journey? And I use that word intentionally, journey, because cultural change is usually a journey. How's that going?
It's going well. I can't say that it's perfect. We still have some work to do, but I have definitely seen an improvement.
Mm-hmm. Excellent, excellent. So a few of y'all, this will kind of probably be maybe our last topic before we break, because I'm getting hungry. How are we doing, Ron? Okay on time? Okay, great. So we saw an online learning platform. We've talked about simulations for our operators. How about others? I know for us, we use Vector Solutions as an online learning platform. We use Accenture Academy to a lesser extent. A lot of our administrative assistants use LinkedIn Learning. We're looking for the holy grail on a couple of different applications for training, but haven't quite found it. How about you all? Any best practices in the tools area for other than simulators for operators? But we have operators that use Vector Solutions for a lot of technical and soft skill training.
We're at the beginning of the journey. So Mitsubishi Chemical, again, is just coming together in the United States as a corporation. So they have hired a learning and development director. And they're looking at different platforms for us to be able to, because we have the regular computer-based training that everyone has to do. We had UL Learn Share, but that's, other than that, an employee comes to me, we also have AMA, so we have different resources, but we don't have a central resource or somewhere that employees can currently go. So like I said, we're at the beginning of the journey, and I'm excited to see where it goes, because I'm listening to them that are further along in the journey, and I want ours to be a success also.
Other applications or tools y'all can share?
Outside of we have our own internal learning system that our employees, all of the training is there. Now, if there is a special request for a specific type of training, normally we will send them out to a particular vendor to have that training. So that's what we've done.
Great, great, great.
So at Chevron, we've really tried to centralize some learning tool resources. So on our corporate page, you can go to different tools. iLearn is one of the platforms that we use. Also, just even leverage Khan Academy, which is a free tool if people want to learn some science and math skills and practice those. It's a really great place. But what we're really also trying to do is leverage tools like Canvas or Blackboard or Pilot. I don't know if those are names that you guys are familiar with, but it's more set up like a university in a sense, where you can put different tasks and objectives as part of this. And again, it's more of a learning journey or experience where we're asking people, you know, it might be, hey, watch this video or read this book, and then you can work with an instructor to get feedback on that. Or we might have, you know, go and have a feedback conversation with one of your employees, and on here, go and upload, how was that experience? What did you learn from it? What were your takeaways? So again, really moving away from CBT type learning, because it's ineffective, as we all know, and really trying to do more discussion, feedback type learning, where you can have those conversations and lessons learned to see, did people really learn something from this? Are they able to take away information? And then bringing back more instructor-led as well, but again, really balancing it with some other tools. We're also doing a lot of exploring in the VR space, AR space, trying to find ways to really integrate those. So what are the best situations where those are most appropriate, and kind of running on some challenges with that. So this is a great conference for us as well to learn some of those things while we're here.
Yeah, great, thank you, thank you. Anybody else? So with that, I think we're going to close out. I want to remind you we're going to have a Q&A time this afternoon. And then I want to give you an offer that was given to me, and it was a panelist of some senior HR professionals from Chevron. They were speaking recently on a panel, and they were talking about a great place for families to work, and we had the representative from that nonprofit there. And it's a designation that our companies can get at no cost. You do not have to, so even my company that does not offer work from home could qualify. And it's a really different way for those in our industry to have a differentiating, little logo on our job postings and things like that. I just want to encourage folks in our industry to go look that up. It's a great place for families to work, and it's a free survey set of questions that you ask, and you provide some evidence, and then you get some feedback on, you almost made it, but you don't have a parenting policy or something like that, or parental leave policy or something like that. But I just think it would be really great if our industry kind of took that by storm. And it's being sponsored here locally by Greater Houston Partnership, and they offer it to all of us to take for free. And so I just encourage you to take a look at that and give that a try. But panelists, thank you very much for your insights and your wisdom and for sharing with us today. Can you all give them a great big round of applause?
How about any questions? Got a good group up here. Any questions for him?
A small reservation. So a lot of people call soft skills, and kind of give the wrong impression. I think, in my opinion, I used to work for a university, and then we have the hard skills and the soft skills. And you have the faculty say, "Oh, we worry about the hard skills, not the soft skills." I moved to a company, Abbe, and then one of the things that made me very happy is they call them core skills. They don't call them soft skills, and I think this is important in the mind of management and so on. It is essential to do the job, and this is my observation.
Yeah, I agree with that. There's a very famous TED Talk on this topic from a teacher, and he would say the same thing. He wants us to change them to essential skills. So I just ran an 8-week course in our business, 8 different topics and it was called Essential Skills. And we had Gen Zs in there. We had 40-year employees in there. For whatever reason, they wanted to come as well, and I welcomed them. And the classes kept growing and growing and growing. But the Gen Zs were really interesting. They said these were young men and women who did part of their college time or university time during COVID. And what they told us that they had missed and what they felt like they were lacking from going through university and college during COVID was pretty significant. So the highest ranking courses that we offered were how to conduct a successful meeting, communication, and presentations. Because their teamwork was very different during COVID, their group work was very different, their projects were very different. And so even though some of my 30 and 40-year folks need to polish their essential skills, we have members of our workforce today and others that are coming that have missed out on some things that we probably are taking for granted that they experience. So they are essential skills. Thank you for that. Hey, Lori.
How are you? Good. Okay, I'm going in the ID&E direction. So there's data out there that says women make up 29% of the manufacturing workforce, but 47% of the workforce overall. And if we don't start to include this talent pool in our industry, we will not be able to fill jobs by 2030. So I'm curious how you all are addressing, or if you found best practices for recruiting women into your companies and also retaining them.
Great, good question. Anybody want to take a step?
If I'll go first. I literally just had this conversation with the general manager at the SoarnoL site yesterday. Mitsubishi has a DE&I division now, and they have a director, and they're really starting to push for. So they haven't come out with goals yet, but we talked about it. It's in our part. It's a lack of moving on qualified candidates quickly, even then. So talking about coming to the school here and watching the classes work on the unit on the last couple days, identifying a young lady or a woman or someone in that category that could be at our facility. The other companies have already given them co-ops, or they've already done some kind of work with them, and they're getting hired before they even graduate. We're not there. I mean, we need to do co-ops at our company. We need to do internships so that we can get that talent of any kind, but specifically women. And it's tough because there are less of them. So we have to start younger. You have to start with Patty's level. We've done a lot over the years as ECMA. I'm the director of the workforce development. You have to get in at 7th grade and start talking to all the students before they make their selection on what their career is going to be in high school. And you need to start talking to women about, and young girls about opportunity. It used to be a very male-dominated industry, telling them you can have a successful career, you can make really good money with very low college debt and still have a family, and their eyes start to light up a little like, wait, I can be a welder, so we have to do better as a company getting them much sooner in school, younger girls, and then when they're in college, maybe their first year in a program and start recruiting. So we see an issue. We haven't figured it out yet, though, so maybe they have, and again, we can steal some of their ideas. So,
and I think, Lori, helping folks see it, then they think they could be it. That's our women's network. That is kind of their mantra. Let's help them see it so they can be it. And I was at a meeting yesterday afternoon with the San Jacinto Chancellor Brenda Hellier, and she was talking about enrollment and how enrollment. She said we're losing the men, and so these college campuses, especially this one right here, I know their enrollment rates are pretty close to pre-COVID and maybe growing beyond that from what she said. These are really fertile grounds to go talk to that chemistry department, to go talk to the business department and invite them and have women from your industry, even if they're not technicians, but they're in procurement, and just talk about the different roles and what life is like in our industry for a woman. I know Sonia Malott from your company and we spent an evening over there with a lot of the process tech students and some other faculty talking about what it's like being a woman in this industry. We told some scary stories from the old days. We talked about some of the scary stories that are still in place today, but how it's much better today. And then just kind of what a great lifestyle you can have, right? And a lot of the students that came were men, and they wanted to know. We asked them. There were 2 students that came that are a couple. And they're both in this program, so it's pretty interesting for them to hear that too. Other feedback though on diversity and gender.
Yes, we pride ourselves on trying to be that company to be very, very diverse, and we do have some goals, affirmative action goals in place where we have a set number that we try to hire women in not only just regular positions, but in executive positions as well, to make sure that that bench is on an even playing field. And also within our internship as well, making sure that there's female engineers, there's females in all levels of the organization, from operators on up. So we do establish goals every year to make sure that we hit those targets.
Great, thank you.
So we as well have a lot of plans in place that we're trying to get women into more senior leadership roles at Chevron. But I do like what was said before. It really starts at a young age. And so some of the things that we're doing is trying to get into the schools, doing volunteer work for STEM programs, and where Chevron sets up different STEM type of activities. We go into the schools and we do it with these children. So getting them really excited about science, math, and engineering and all those things that they can do. And the other thing, we also use our women's network to leverage. So really trying to get volunteers from our women's network to go and help with those volunteer opportunities to get the little girls in the classrooms excited about those types of careers.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good question. I think it's a difficult topic. It's a little bit messy because, and we attend all the women's events, the women in the industry, and we've got women's networks and different things like that. We've got the DE&I organization. The messaging is coming down. We want a diverse company, but we want a diverse leadership team, right? And so, what's the talent pool for that? And the real answer is we don't have the talent pool for that. And so I think it starts with what Dani's talking about. Is you're not going to harvest what you don't sow. And so we've got to do a better job of developing that talent the interest at a very early age, and then help nurture that. But then to create the talent, right? Because when we just got through interviewing, so we test everybody that applies that meets our minimum requirements. I go to the testing. We're testing. We probably tested 750 people. I go in there. I count the female candidates there, and it's not very many. It's just not very many. And one grouping of 125 candidates, we had 2 women that were in the testing. So we got to get the talent to the table. We got to get the candidates to the table. But then the other piece is I know we've got this diversity effort. I believe that it's believed at the top, but then there's that trickle down effect. And so, are people buying into this? And it's a paradigm shift. It's a huge shift in the brain for everybody to get on board, and everybody don't get on board. And so it's just really, really challenging. I think the key word is we're going to have to be intentional. We're going to have to be very intentional if we're going to make a difference.
Yeah, it's going to take effort. It's that sewing that you talked about. I have a picture from my days in operations that I treasure. And it's a shame that I treasure it. So I was the site director, plant manager. I had a whole crew of female operators on that night, and our female environmental engineer was in the control room. So I said, let's please get a picture of this, because it's rare, right? It's rare, right? Well, thank you all very much. We're going to take a break now, and I see the dessert is out, so we really are going to cut off the questions here because sugar's calling. But thank you all very much.
Okay, thank you. On the last panel, we ended kind of abruptly to get to lunch. And I just wanted to make sure, does anybody else have any questions for our panelists? We have one. If someone else can grab a microphone.
On succession. So this skill gap isn't a surprise to us. So what have you done in the line of succession planning?
So I think succession planning is on top of everyone's minds right now, right? That's a big thing. I think a lot of it is trying to sit down those operators and collect that information. So download, do a debrief with them, really help them, pass along that, but also have them work with other more junior operators before they leave. So we actually entice people to stay longer. So they say, hey, we're going to retire. And then we're like, wait, well, we can give you a deal if you stay at least 2 more years and work with other people to do it. So I think that's a gap. I'd love to learn from others in that space, but that's at least what we're doing so far, knowing that it is a big problem. And we have a lot of people who have left that did take that information and knowledge with them. And now we're hiring back as contractors in a lot of cases because we need their experience. And unfortunately, they had left the company. So we leverage them as a contractor too.
Hello? Okay. I think one of you spoke about your employee recognition program. Could you provide any just details about your employee recognition program as well as criteria? How do you decide who receives that? Because I think I saw maybe spot recognitions or something. Want to talk through your recognition program?
And Rhodesia.
So for our employee recognition, not more so spot, but basically for tenured employees, recognizing work anniversaries, milestones in that particular nature. Also, we have a gym program where employees could recognize each other. Like if you help me on a project and I want to recognize you for that, you'll get a certificate and maybe a $50 gift card or something. In addition to that, before COVID, we were doing something called March Madness, where the whole month of March, managers would actually serve the employees. We may have burgers, we may have hot dogs, we may have biscotti, just whatever it was, just to say thank you in terms of recognition. You know, ice cream carts in all of the break rooms and snow cone machines, just to say thank you. So those are some of the ways that we've recognized our employees as well. And then service awards too. We have an annual banquet yearly where those, whether you have 10, 15, 20, 30 years of service, we would have a dinner and they would get their certificate and then a small gift as well.
Excellent. Any other questions or comments? Okay, well, thank you.